Okay. Welcome everyone. My name is Liesl and I am your instructional designer for today. And welcome to the chemistry workshop. So we're looking at the accessibility of our courses. So that's allowing our students of whatever ability they have be able to access our course content. So that means creating an inclusive learning design. And you'll notice that there will be some top 5 tips that I'll be sharing today that, will definitely help your students of disabilities, but it will also help all of your students. So I took a little bit of a poll just to see what we were interested in learning today. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. So let me share screen. So I've been working with the community colleges for about 5 years now, working on a grant from the Chancellor's Office, so the CCC Accessibility Center. And with my role, I create this professional development to help faculty in creating accessible course design. So that's helping all of our students be able to access no matter whatever ability. Yes. So I know sometimes folks will say, you know what, if you have to create a course that's accessible to students who, say, for example, require a screen reader, and a screen reader is basically like Siri, if anybody is familiar with that. Is anybody familiar with Siri? Go ahead in the chat. Let me know. Is anyone familiar with Siri? So Siri will read aloud what is on, what is being read. Yeah. So that's the screen reader for you. So we'll need to apply some of our principles that I'll share today. We'll be talking about how to apply headings, descriptive links. Okay. Yes. And using the rich content editor. So we'll be focusing on creating an accessible Canvas environment. Okay, so just as I was speaking to Reza earlier, yes, students are pivoted online very quickly, and it's been sort of a struggle for them to manage and organize their time. So it's interesting that many faculty are just sort of scaling back during this time and focusing on the lectures that they had, okay, and just using some videos online alongside with Canvas. Anybody else in the room, in the chat, are you using any third-party apps? Third-party apps, like publisher apps? Hello, Professor C. In the chat, go ahead and let me know. Otherwise, we are going to focus on Canvas accessibility, okay? Oh yeah, okay, Reza, use chemistry simulations. Okay, fantastic, and that is definitely important, right? So we'll talk about how do we provide an accessible way, how do we format? It really comes down to formatting so that our students who require screen readers can still access our course content. So here I have the Canvas Accessibility Self-Paced course. And we'll go ahead and share that link with you. Dave, if you can go ahead and paste that link for us. This is a self-paced course, totally free to sign up. And it's just going to be a nice reference point just to learn the basics of accessibility, Canvas accessibility, and how to deal with advanced topics such as creating accessible STEM instructional materials, which we'll visit in a moment, okay? But let's go ahead and let me just check in with the room in the chat, in the Zoom chat. Can you let me know who is familiar with accessibility? What does accessibility mean? Or feel free to unmute your mic. What is accessibility? Any guesses? Okay, so accessibility is how your students can interact and navigate your course. So there's a couple of elements that we will need to do in our Canvas course in order to format our content. So before I jump into that, let's look at how students with screen readers navigate your Canvas course. Um, a screen reader, okay, and this is for a student who is visually impaired, okay, they will use something called a screen reader, and they can pull up multiple types of elements on your Canvas course page. So for example, that screen reader, for example, JAWS is a very popular screen reader tool that reads aloud what is on the page. It can pull up it can navigate by all the headings on your page, all of the links on your page, a list of all the lists on your page, tables, etc. So it gives our students more power to navigate and access your content, okay? And if you want a little bit of background of how, of that experience, you can go ahead and watch that video right here. Okay, we're now going to talk about how we can design success for our students. So I mentioned at the very beginning that using leveraging your Canvas course will be very helpful in managing the accessibility and your content. So how you walk your students through your course content. We can kind of think of Canvas, like the module view, for example. Think about that as like a table of contents, right? And then every module here, okay, every module is like a chapter, and every chapter you have these pages. So students are nexting through. This is important because this helps our students. We walk them through the content, okay? So they're doing less clicks in order to access that content. And if you aren't aware, you are a website designer. Congratulations. So Canvas is an intricate website. So we need to think about how can we leverage Canvas to help students navigate. So bringing back the idea of trying to place all of your content within Canvas so that we can format accordingly and manage that accessibility. So let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Okay. All right. So let me pull up my annotation tool. Okay, and here we go. So on the left-hand side, we see the visual view, the student view. So this is what we would see, right? So we have a paragraph, here's a heading, here's a bullet list, okay? On the back end of Canvas, we have the HTML editor, okay? So screen readers or assistive technology, so for students who have disabilities rely on the coding, aka the HTML coding, in order to interpret your content. So for example, here's a paragraph in the screen reader view or the HTML view. The student will see, okay, there's a paragraph. So the screen reader is just going to read that as normal. It'll just say, here's a paragraph. But this section here, here's a heading, okay? It's going to read aloud the tag type. For example, it's going to read aloud header. If your student is blind, that screen reader is going to announce what the object typed is, right? And then it's going to read the content for the student. So for example, here's a bullet list, okay? The screen reader is going to read out unordered list. That's what that UL means, okay? Is anyone familiar with tags? Is anyone familiar with tags in the chat? Go ahead and type in yes if you are. Type in no, yes, no, maybe so, okay? anyone familiar with tags? Somewhat, okay, Professor C says somewhat, okay. Yeah. And you know, from this, I'm just trying to give you a foundation of how assistive technologies like screen readers, how they navigate your content. So that informs us how we should format our content. Yeah, so it's going to inform us how we format our content, right? So we have this tag unordered list, and then the first item, okay, it's going to read aloud what that item is. It's going to say list item. That's what the li tag means, okay? List item, okay? Let me go ahead and clear my drawings and jump down, mouse, okay. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and do a self-check. Let's do a self-check, right? And here we go. We can all see my screen, right? Go ahead and give me a queen wave if you can give me, if you can see the screen. Yes, okay, fantastic. All right, so here's my first question. So based on my explanation, here's a common question that I hear. Can I just increase the size and bold my text so it looks like a heading? Yes or no? Can I just increase the size and bold my text so it looks like a heading? Okay. All right. So the answer is no, right? Because the screen reader is going to rely on these tags here. So that means if we just enlarge this, let's just say this, here's a heading is just like a fake, you know, just sort of like we artificially manually increase the size and bolded the font. On the back end, the screen reader is still going to interpret it as a paragraph tag, a P tag. Yep, fantastic. So when possible, use the Canvas rich content editor. And I believe here we at this district, we are still using the classic rich content editor. So it will look like this at the top, okay? So use that rich content editor. It will format for us, so we don't need to go into the HTML because I don't want anybody to do that, right? Make it super easy. All right, so let's talk about going back to the idea, can this be a Canvas page? So I know we have a lot of instructional documents. So do we have from the participants here, are we using Word documents? Are we using PDF documents? Or are we placing everything into Canvas pages? Okay, I know pivoting online, we all pretty much just did a data dump into Canvas. But now that since we're here for a little bit while, yeah, it's okay. So Dave mentioned that we'll be transitioning to the new rich content editor on December 18th. Okay, fantastic. That's really good to know. That's pretty close. Yeah. Well, love it. All right. So okay. So let's talk about how we can manage the accessibility of our instructional documents. So let me tell you right now, Microsoft Word document, it's a little bit easy to it takes some time, right, with all technologies to learn how to apply the accessibility, apply accessibility in Microsoft Word. In a PDF document, it is so difficult, let me tell you. There are institutions that just send out their PDFs because PDF accessibility is very difficult. Canvas accessibility is a lot easier to manage. So when we think about, okay, can I place this content into a Canvas page, right? We have to think about the intention. So if formatting is important, and it's tied to the learning objective, then then we would keep the document as is, and we'll need to reach out to our professional development services. So I believe Peter, Dave, right? Can we reach out to Dave? And then Chris Rogers, and I think there's another instructional designer, can help with providing some support. Yes. In terms of creating accessible documents, or at least they can, you know, we can send out those documents. So we want to try to give our students the most authentic learning environment. Yeah. So let's think about, okay, what's the intention of our instructional documents? We need to make them accessible. So can we place them in a page, right? So we're first going to think, okay, well, what's the intention? Say, for example, if you have a published paper, a scientific published paper that you want your students to read, then it would make sense to keep that as a PDF document, because you know, published papers do have a specific way of formatting. So that's kind of part of the learning objective. We want to give our students the most authentic learning experience. You can place that content into a Canvas page, but it's the formatting is a little bit different. Yeah, it's a little bit different. So I would recommend you can just leave that as a PDF and then just contact your office, your professional development office. If anyone is using a syllabus, you can leave that syllabus as an accessible Microsoft Word document. So say, for example, if you're short on time and you have a PDF document where the formatting doesn't really matter, you can instead provide an accessible Word document. So what we're saying is, at the end of the day, do we have a version that students can access? Okay, so a syllabus could be an example where we leave that documented as a Word document. For example, I had an English teacher who wanted to share like an MLA formatted paper, right? So it would make sense to leave that Microsoft Word document as is rather than throwing it into a Canvas page, because it's, you know, students don't really see or understand on a Canvas page. Even though we made it accessible, it's not the same authentic learning experience as, you know, keeping it in that Microsoft Word document. Okay. We're going to talk about specifically STEM accessibility here. So when it comes to providing worksheets, so does anybody provide worksheets for their exams? How are we providing our exams? Let me check in with the group. So Reza, Ambarta, Professor C, what type of, how do you provide your assessments in class? And feel free to unmute your mic or in the chat. Okay, Professor C, you do Canvas quizzes. Okay, perfect. Okay. Reza, okay, in the form of a quiz, multiple choice. Okay, and are you using Canvas quiz as well? Yeah, okay. Perfect. All right, so let's talk about the items. And just to touch on our assessments for STEM in particular, unfortunately, the rich content editor, so when we provide our quizzes, if you're using any equations, unfortunately, Canvas does not create in a very accessible version. So I would recommend providing a Microsoft Word document that uses the equation formula tool in Microsoft Word. And I do have some content for that for you, right? So if you're giving your students like a problem set within Canvas, it's just broken. Hopefully it'll be fixed in the next, in the new quizzes. So there's new quizzes coming out too. Dave, in your in our institution here, our district, do you know when new quizzes will be rolled out? we'll see.
Canvas is telling us, their instructors telling us that's likely to be well into next year.
Okay. So hopefully we've reached out to them from the CCC Accessibility Center just to let them know that there are some things that we found that were inaccessible. So unfortunately, I would at this point recommend to create, instead of Canvas quiz, Microsoft Word documents instead. So let me go ahead and just jump into that since we're talking about that. And I'll just scroll down. Okay, so let's talk about STEM. Okay, so we are going to learn how to create, I'll just cover briefly, how to create accessible STEM content in Canvas using the Rich Content Editor, Math Editor, for instructional lectures and tutorials. So basically, if you are covering material, lecture content within the Canvas pages, go ahead and use the Canvas content math editor. So yes, use the Canvas math editor to put in those expressions. However, if you're deploying like a quiz or like a worksheet of a lot of equations, then I would recommend providing a Microsoft Word document. And so you can kind of set it up where in Canvas you can create an assignment, and you can do sort of like a Word, or whatever, like a document submission. So you can provide students different ways where they can upload their submissions. Okay. Anybody have questions about that? Professor C, will the old one still be able to be used? What do you mean? Do you mean the old Canvas quizzes? Yeah, so yes, even though we're transitioning, yes, you can still use the old Canvas. Yes, so Dave says that should be possible until such time as instructor deprecates, turns off the current testing tool. Yeah, and there's usually a pretty good transition period in between. So I mean, this would be an opportunity where you can, instead of placing it into new quizzes, you can just create a Microsoft Word document, and that should be a lot simpler for your students as well, since it's a STEM course. Yeah. So for all lecture material, just backing up, use the content math editor for your content pages, but for your assignments and your worksheets and whatnot, create an accessible Microsoft Word document. So I'll just quickly walk you through math in Canvas. So there are limitations to the Canvas math equation editor. The reality is that that Canvas did not is not giving their students the most easy experience, the most streamlined experience for math accessibility. So unfortunately, your students will need accommodation. So your DSPS office, if that's what this district calls it, is it DSPS or DRC? It's probably DSPS. Yeah, DSPS, right? So your DSPS office, it would be a lot helpful for them to have that Microsoft Word document that's accessible, so they can turn it into whatever accommodation that your student needs. Yeah. So because we have those limitations, okay, again, we're going to determine when to use that rich content editor. So again, for all of your content pages, you're going to use that math equation in Canvas. Another thing that you can do, and let me go ahead and zoom in. This is a screenshot. Oh, let me just zoom out. Okay, this is a screenshot of a Canvas page. So this page is talking about the quadratic formula. So if you have, and I know this happens in STEM, in my undergrad, I majored in cell and molecular biology and a minor in chemistry. There was a lot of equations. There was a lot of complex images, processes. I would highly recommend to provide a textual description of the process. So say, for example, instead of just typing in, actually, let me show this one instead. Let me go ahead and clear all drawings and just use my mouse. Okay, how about this worked example? Let's focus on this for one moment. Okay, let me get this draw tool. Here we go. Okay, so here's a worked example. So we want our students to solve, okay, so this is the lecture portion, 2x squared minus 4x minus 3 equals 0, okay? So we're providing some textual explanation. So we start off, the numbers are inserted into the quadratic formula, replacing the corresponding letters, and then we use the Canvas math editor to input our information, right? Okay, so I know that sometimes we might use images, it might be faster to do, but it's a lot better for our students who rely on assistive technologies to be able to access the content, right, and be able to navigate. So using the rich content editor kind of helps them access that information in an easier way, right? So we provide the equation using the content editor, and then you'll notice immediately after there is a textual explanation, okay, that follows right after, okay? And we do this again where we use the math editor, okay, and then we provide a textual description of what is going on. So what we're doing here is providing multiple channels of learning. So visually, your students are following along what is happening in each of these equations, and then we have some text to further explain what is happening. So it provides your students a textual and a visual explanation. Does anybody have any questions about that? Any questions about that? Okay. And so when you provide that visual and extra information, textual information, your students, no matter what their preferences, will be able to understand and sort of follow along, okay? All right, so for problem sets, then we'll use an accessible Microsoft Word document. So I will show you in a moment in the next page a sample math assignment in Canvas, how we are going to set that up. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll just preview you here. You want to use the Canvas math equation editor. So it's next to the image icon, okay? So you're going to select that, and then you're going to enter the equation using the editor, or you can use LaTeX too if you're familiar with that. But I just use the editor here, okay? And then you type in your equation, select insert equation, and then that's how you have the equation will fall exactly where your cursor is on your Canvas page. Dave, do you know if the district has access to math type by virus, or if anyone on the line here? If you have math type.
Some departments may, but it's not provided as a district-wide tool, to my knowledge. Anyway, it doesn't go through online learning pathways in that regard, anyway.
Okay.
So
okay.
I don't know that it's available district-wide.
Okay. Okay. So math type it is a subscription. So there's chem type that is available. And here's some extra information. I'll go ahead and oopsie. Oh, looks like it's not there. Oh, that's awkward. Okay, well, we're gonna find that page. Let me see if I can find that page in a moment. That's not good. Let's see. Let's go into the pages. Let's see. Math type. Chem type, okay, virus. Okay, so I'm gonna have to find that for you. But David, when I find that link, can I just email that to you? I don't know if you can add resources.
Absolutely.
You can, okay. So I will send that to everyone. Sorry, apologies about that. But anyway, you might want to check in with your division or your department to see if chem type would be a suitable subscription. It's definitely more student friendly, and it allows your students, and if I could just zoom in a little bit, they can actually, with the app, type in or just sort of handwrite the equation, and it automatically turns into that equation. So it's kind of neat in that way. So that's something that you might want to consider. So that's math type by virus, chem type specifically. All right, so here's an example of a math assignment or a chem, workshop or worksheet assignments that you can provide. So in Canvas, you would just create a brand new assignment. And here's an example of how to set up an assignment. We have an overview section, and I just created a heading so that it just kind of pops, and then I added some fancy lines to it just to provide some organization to the assignment, and then instructions, okay? So there's two parts, overview and instructions for those assignments. So we say here in the instructions, please complete week 1, assignment 4, and then allow them to download it. Show your work in the Microsoft Word document provided, or feel free to print, write your answers, take a picture of your homework assignment or scan, and then upload. So you're giving your students different options on how they would like to interact and submit their work to you. So that is how I would recommend providing those work problems for your students, for the assignments or finals. Okay, if you have a lot of heavy equations. Any questions about that? Okay, so let's talk about the basics of Canvas accessibility. So I'm going to teach you about this acronym LIST, okay? So we have links, L is for links, that's creating descriptive links, I is for images, and that is creating alternate texts for our images, okay, textual description. And then S has 2 components, heading styles and lists, and then table, okay, T is for table. So at the end of our session here, you will be able to create descriptive hyperlinks, provide meaningful alternative text. I'll always use the shortcut alt text. So when I say alt text, I mean alternative text. Then we'll also learn how to apply heading styles correctly and apply list styles to groups of associated text, and then apply text headers or create an accessible table. So here we go. Again, this is in the Canvas accessibility course. This is a free course. Think of it sort of like a job aid. You could come back to it. Let me go ahead and play for you the student experience of what happens when we don't create an accessible link. So let me go ahead and increase this a little bit. There we go.
Links, inaccessible versus accessible. Inaccessible links are links that use the undescriptive URL and are not easily readable. This page has one non-descriptive.
Whoops.
At a glance, I don't know why it's important and where it's going to take me if I select it. I'm going to pull up the links list to show you how a student experiences the non-descriptive link. The link list is going to reveal all the links on this page.
Links list dialog.
I'll need to use my down arrow key to navigate to the inaccessible link. Inaccessible.
At https://conleyneed.instructure.com/courses/7.
Equally frustrating, For a student who relies on a screen reader, interpreting inaccessible links is an arduous task. Accessible.
Online course design guide.
The descriptive link is a lot easier to understand, and we know exactly where the link is going to take us.
Okay, so that was our a screen reader experience, so our student experience who use screen readers. So it reads aloud the content again. It'll read aloud first the object type, whether it is an image, a link, or a header, and then it reads the content. So we saw how screen readers interpret inaccessible versus accessible links. So it's really just a step one, step two process. So first we'll have to think about how we want to create a descriptive text, okay? We'll have to first identify the purpose, or what is the function of the hyperlink. And then you want to be as descriptive as possible. And when you write your hyperlink, or when you create that hyperlink, make sure that it's not too long, okay? Like in this example here, oh, actually, why don't we do the self-check? We'll start this. You don't want to provide a link that looks like this. https:///cccac accessibility.org. So the screen reader is going to read aloud every single character. And for your students who are visual, it's not very readable, right? It's kind of difficult to see exactly where this link is taking us. So in the chat, super easy for 5 points, which link is readable, A or B? A or B? Yes, it is B. It is B. Welcome, Rob. How are you doing?
Doing all right. I just got out of class.
Oh, that's fun. Well,
I
welcome.
apologize for being tardy.
Oh, don't worry about it. I have this link for you that you can refer back to, and we'll also have the recording. But basically, we were just talking about a couple of elements that will help in your course design to help your students access your content easily, so that they can navigate your content.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just talked about which link is readable, and here we have A or B. Right off the bat, Rob, you can probably tell which one is readable, yeah? A or B?
B.
Yes, B. And what do we notice about B? What do we notice about B? Look how it's woven into the sentence. So in online, I know we've all kind of just shifted online very quickly. It's always good to have some description, some guidelines. What do you want the students to do with this resource, whether it's a hyperlink or a download PDF? What do you want them to do? So I say here, read Bloom's taxonomy. You'll notice that this hyperlink that I'm using is short and sweet and to the point. And then I explain to learn more about writing effective learning objectives. So we're giving our students some guidance on how to work with our content. So that's a little tidbit of instructional design there, okay? And here we go. Let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit more. So which examples are more helpful? Let's just say this is A, column A, which has, and let's pretend this was, if I was your student who was requiring a screen reader, okay, I can pull up a list of many different elements on your Canvas page. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, I could pull up a list of links. I could pull up a list of headings of all the images and tables on your page, right? There's different ways I can navigate if I'm a student who requires a screen reader like JAWS, if I'm low vision or if I'm blind, right? So I'll use my screen reader, and let's go ahead and I'll show you what the experience is like. So let's pretend I pull up with JAWS, my screen reader tool, a list of all of the links on this page, just this section here, and it's going to read aloud to me list of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, list of 6 links. Click here, more info, read more, here. Do I know where I'm going? So just based on those list of links, do I know where I'm going? Do I know why it's important? No. But on the right-hand side, if you create more description or descriptive links, you'll hear, okay, I pull up my screen reader and it's going to read aloud the list of links. It's going to read captions and audio descriptions, academic integrity policy, Article 1, the fall of man, Article 2, the rise of man, contrast, color coding. Stand alone with that list of links, okay? I already know why these links are important. So when possible, refrain from using click here, more info here. And for your visual students as well, this blue hyperlink, it stands out, right? So visually, we're going to center on read more, click here, even though we have some description prior, right? So one thing to note, just go ahead and create that descriptive link. So we want to avoid redundancy, okay? So that means if you have a descriptive link and you use it more than twice, like it's the same link, even if it wasn't click here, more info, or read more, try to make unique descriptive links on your Canvas page, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and let's do this self-check here. All right. Now, just a little bit of backstory for those that are joining us. So a screen reader reads aloud what is the object, okay? It's going to tell us if it's a list, images, a header, a link, and then it's going to announce the content. So with that background, here's a self-check, okay? How does a screen reader read aloud the following link? And the link is captions and audio descriptions. How does a screen reader read aloud the following link? Choose the best answer. So the screen reader will read it as A, captions and audio descriptions, B, link, captions and audio descriptions, or C, link, and then it's going to read the website name. So in the chat, or unmute your mic, go ahead and type in your answer, A, B, or C. A, B, or C. Okay. All right, so let me go ahead and pull up. Okay, so screen readers are going to read aloud information, okay? First, they're going to announce the type of object. So this is a link. So it's the screen reader is going to announce link, okay? And then it's going to read captions and audio descriptions, okay? Then it's going to read the content aloud. So this is our content right here, okay? So that would be B, link, captions and audio descriptions. So what does that mean? So I know I keep talking about the screen reader and the screen reader student experience. Why does this matter? Because it informs how we are going to format our content. So if we know that the screen reader is already going to announce link, we don't have to write the word link before a hyperlink and after a hyperlink. Okay, so we can kind of streamline the information a little bit more for our students. Okay. Any questions about that? Any questions about that? No? No? Okay. All right, so let me go ahead and jump into Canvas and show you a quick demo of what that looks like. All right, I'll go ahead and select Edit. All right, and let's create a hyperlink. Let's just say Screen Reader. Okay, Screen Reader. Let's pretend, or actually let's do this. So links, there are two types of links that can be created in your course. There's internal links, which you could use the content selector here on the right-hand side, okay? Always use the content selector anytime you are linking within your course. It will help retain the links so that they don't break when you move your content into a new shelf for the next quarter or semester. Okay, so use that content selector. The second other type of link you can create is a external link. An external link. So you could use the link to URL here to create that hyperlink. However, we will need to use the secret method. It's called Command plus K if you have a Mac, or Control plus K. And we will need these two items. So we'll need to add some description. So anchors and target. So I won't go too much into this because it looks like fairly soon you'll be moving into the new rich content editor in Canvas, and this will be a non-issue. So I'm not even going to go down the rabbit hole there. In the new rich content editor, the external Canvas provides a button for external links. So all you need to do is create a descriptive link. Okay, a descriptive link. And even though the buttons look a little bit different and it's oriented, the rich content looks a little bit different. The buttons are all over the place, a little bit different. It's very much the same, where you would just highlight your word, okay, your descriptive word, make sure it's not too long, and then you would select a link to URL, and then it gives you an option to create an external link. Very similar to this, and then this is where you can add your link and then select insert link. Same thing, and it takes care of the rest for you. Okay. Any questions about creating descriptive links? No. Okay. Let's go ahead and just zoom through our other items. Okay, so this is kind of important, right? When we have images, okay, and we do have a lot of complex images in chemistry. I know all the processes and all that good stuff. So how do you create accessible images? We'll need to create alternative text, or alt text, which is basically a textual description. You could think about it like, when you call your friend over the phone and you would describe to them what is in that picture and why it's important. And an alt text is typically like one sentence long. No more than that. So if it's a little bit more complex than that, then we'll need to do some other things. It's actually a two-step process in that case, if you cannot explain what is in that picture in one sentence. So again, in alt text is a textual description, and it's usually about a sentence long or a phrase. So for this image on the right-hand side here of this gentleman, go ahead in the chat and write the alt text for this image. Let's pretend that it's on a blank Canvas page. What would be your alt text or your textual description of this image on the right-hand side? In the chat. I'm just gonna play our thing.
But Grammarly can help.
There we go. Give me a moment. There we go. There's some thinking music. What would be the alt text for the image on the bottom right-hand side? Okay, so Rob says, Elvis the King facing the crowd with his guitar. Yes, excellent, excellent. That's a good one. That's a good one, and that's a common one that I've heard too. There's also Elvis playing his guitar with a red background. That's another one that I've seen as well. Yep, exactly. Fantastic. And on that blank canvas page, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. Now let's pretend that this is a fashion history course. So if the intention is a little bit different, now we're talking about fashion. Now just think about, how would the alt text differ now? So we're probably going to talk about his black leather onesie outfit, right? So when we create our alt text, you are basically determining your image's purpose. What is the intention of your image? And if you haven't realized this already, when you're in Canvas, you're basically the author. You're writing a book in a way. So you're giving your students, you're writing your students sort of like textual descriptions of the images. So let's say, for example, and this is going to be more common, you know, what type or what do I do if I have a complex image? What do I do if I have a complex image? Say, for example, this is an example. Actually, let me pull up another one. I think would be good. Give me 1 second. Let me pull this here. And if anyone has any questions, go ahead and feel free, open mic. Any questions? Any questions? So we're just going to jump into, yeah, absolutely.
I was actually going to try to pull up an image to show you.
Oh, please. Yeah, can you do that? Yeah.
I was trying to look at something that I have. So, you know, in my class, I have students that are supposed to analyze data, right? And so
yeah,
obviously in a normal situation, they're in lab and they would actually look at it. And if I have a visually impaired student, you know, they basically have a buddy that's going to describe it. So, you know, if I have, I'm looking for a picture that I can show you, but let's say I have the experiment my students just did. They have like 12 test tubes, and you know, it has varying, the colors are vary, you know, as you go across the list. And so you would literally say there are something like 12 test tubes, and from, you know, pH 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you have to just write some descriptive text what they're seeing.
Yes. Yes.
Is there a way now, if I was to do that, let's say that I have students, that part of the goal of the class for students who are not visually impaired, right, is they're supposed to just match a color. They're supposed to go, okay, I mean, this is one I pulled off the internet. The one I have now is actually stuff I did in the lab. Can I share my screen with you?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Here. Here. Okay, so this picture here, right? So this experiment, the one that they're doing this semester, I actually have actual pictures of, because I had the opportunity to go in the lab and do it myself. But what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to say, okay, so washing soda or baking soda is this kind of turquoise color, and they're supposed to match it. Oh, it looks like it's between 10 and 11, right? So for the students that can see, I don't want the description. Right, I want them to look at it on their own. So when I put in the alternate text, that's only going to appear on a reader?
Yes, it's only going to appear on a reader. Exactly. So whether you're in Canvas, or if you do, this is a PDF or a Microsoft Word document, only you and the student who requires a screen reader will be able to access that alt text. And right off the bat, Rob, since you came in, I'm just going to say right off, okay, STEM accessibility is just very difficult. So there's only so much that you can do.
Right.
Okay. There's only so much you can do. I mean, there's going to be some things where, you know, where it's going to be difficult, right? So at that point, we'll need to reach out to our DSPS And plus, we don't really know which of our students, what accommodation they need. We can't, predetermine that. It's going to be a student-driven process. So just doing, just what you did, just create an alt text that's as descriptive as possible. Is there a way, so I noticed you have a PDF there, which is a little bit tough in terms of accessibility, to manage the accessibility. Would it be possible to create a Word document instead?
Yeah, actually what I did is that when I created those, I actually took the pictures and put them into a Word document.
Okay.
But I created PDFs just to post because those seem to be a little bit more robust if they pull it up on their phone or something like that. So I have it in both forms. So yes, I have in Word documents as well.
Oh, perfect.
I start with Word documents and convert them to PDFs. So another thing, for example, I actually taught several years ago. I actually had 2 students. This is when we were doing back face-to-face is 10 years ago. And I had students in my lab class that were blind, not even visually impaired. They literally could not see. And, and I think I was the first one, at least at Mason, to deal with it. So we just kind of figured it out as we were going along. And they had a buddy. They literally had another person who was paid to be in the lab with them who would say, all right, the reading of your red, it's 57.46 milliliters. The problem comes in where you almost, if you're making it accessible, you're almost going to go, oh, never mind. I kind of answered. You're almost going to go too far. But that would be, for example, if they're reading a measurement and they're reading, say, a meniscus in a cylinder, I want a student to look at that and go, oh, it's between 35 and 36, and they're supposed to estimate it's 35.4. Now, if I have a student that's impaired, I have to tell them, okay, it's part way between the 35 and the 36, and that would be the type of text I would write. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we
35.4.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So it's definitely, yes, you become an author of sorts, right? So you're yes, you have to describe for your students. And I think it will be difficult, definitely, but do the best that you can. That's because that's the best that we can do in these situations. But I think the important part to remember why we're doing this is because we're being proactive. So we don't know who is going to come into our class, what their abilities are. So I think getting something prepared, just like what you're doing, Rob, just being very proactive about it is great, because it's going to help your student success, right? Because it's very difficult to try to work with DSPS and try to create an accessible version and describe what needs to be done in that document. In the meantime, your students are falling behind, right? So, but now you have a document where you can start off, it's a good starting point, right, to work with your DSPS office. So I think this is great. Yeah, absolutely. If you're doing it.
If I did have a student that was using a reader, it's better to have it in Word than in a PDF.
Yes. And that is because in PDF, it's so hard to manage the accessibility in PDF. Because what you'd probably be using, what we have access to is Adobe Acrobat DC, right? And you can make things accessible, but it's a little bit more tough. But of course, you start with an accessible Microsoft Word document. So the stuff that we're covering today, these topics, you can apply the same ideas or the same workflows, processes in Microsoft Word documents, okay? And then you can export it into a PDF, and then you'd have to jump into the Adobe Acrobat environment, and then there's like a couple of more things that you need to do. And it takes a lot of work. So absolutely, I think at this point you can provide the PDF version, and then you can provide the accessible Microsoft Word document as well. Yeah. So you can give your students, different options of navigating and accessing the content. Yeah. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Those are great questions. Thank you, Rob. I love that. All right, so I hope that helps clarify in terms of the images. Here's an example. It's probably not, this is okay, but this is a screenshot. I've seen this out in the wild where we will have a screenshot of a table graph, of text, a pie graph, okay? We could easily place this content into a Canvas page, or if you're using a Microsoft Word document, basically you would pull the text out from this image, okay? Instead of writing a crazy long alt text, which we can't do anyway, right? That's too much for our students. Just pull that content out. And here, let me go ahead and show you sorry about the quick scroll. Here's an example, okay? We're pulling the text out of the image, right? So reasons for inaccessibility. And you'll notice that I've provided some textual description, sort of like a breakdown of the content in this pie graph, okay? So again, we're giving our students multiple channels of learning, okay? So visually, we're giving them this pie graph, and then textually, we're also explaining. So this is really great for all of your students, no matter what ability. It's just pretty much reinforcement at that point, right? So we're pulling that text, and then I created a table within Canvas, or you can do that in Microsoft Word too, and it is accessible, okay? So if you have these images or these screenshots similar to this right here, where it's like a complex image and there's a lot of text on it, like tables, we can easily pull that out, okay? And that will help our students navigate our course or our content a little bit better. It's a lot easier to access information on a page, okay, or as clickable text, like what you see here, rather than an image, because students like to navigate in different ways, like how I mentioned before. They'll navigate your documents through all the tables, or maybe through all the images or all the heading styles. So it's important to give them that flexibility so that they can jump to whatever content that they need. All right, so that's images, okay? And I'm just gonna go through this real quick. Okay, so here's lists, okay? So we did, of our acronym, links, that's writing descriptive links, images, writing alt text for those images, and then lists. This one's just super easy. And I could just go ahead and play this video for you. So let me, okay, so everyone can see my page, yeah? Okay, so I'll just play.
Lists. Inaccessible versus accessible. Although manually created lists visually looks like a list, like these dashes in front of the links, a student who relies on a screen reader would not be able to identify that your manually created list is grouped together. You need to use Canvas's built-in list tool. Screen readers can navigate in various ways. One way to find lists is to pull up the Select a List dialog. Inaccessible.
Select the list dialog.
I'm looking for the manually created list, but I don't see it in the Select a List dialog.
Minimize global map. Canvas pages welcome. Copy 14.
I'll apply the built-in bullet list to this group of 2 items. Now these 2 hyperlinks will appear in the Select a Link dialog. Accessible.
Select the list dialog. Bullet online course design guide. Bullet intro to designing for access. Enter. List of 2 items.
Okay, so we just saw the difference between an inaccessible list versus an accessible list. So this is not an issue really for Microsoft Word. So when you're creating manual lists, like I think when you do, when you start a numbered list, like number 1, Microsoft Word will automatically format that numbered list. But in Canvas, if you create, so if you start with number 1 and then start writing your list, unfortunately, Canvas does not snap into that automatic list. So that's something to keep in mind. So in Canvas, it is super easy to create a list, which, by the way, how many items should you have in a grouped list? How many items should you have in a grouped list? So in order to use either the bullet list or the numbered list, how many items minimum do you need to have in that list? In the chat, or feel free to unmute your mic. How many items do you need minimum to use the bullet or the numbered list? And this is something that I see out in the wild. Okay, so yes, professors say yes, you need at least 2 items. I know sometimes we'll use the bullet, okay, the bullet list like this, okay, a singular bullet just to add some emphasis. Okay, so if I was a student trying to navigate your Canvas page or your Microsoft Word document and going through all that lists, right, a list of lists, okay, I'm going to come to this list and it's going to read list, a bullet list, list item 1, and then it's going to read the content. So the student is going to look for the second bullet because typically you'll use a list when you have more than 1 item, at least 2 items in a group list. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you want to add some emphasis, there's another tool that I will share with you, totally free. Let me go ahead and, that's interesting. Here we go. This is the course design toolbox. Okay, so let me go ahead and jump to this. So if anyone is familiar with HTML coding, a while back I was teaching during the online teaching conference. I did one session about HTML coding, and a lot of folks wanted to learn about page dividers and image padding for their Canvas courses. And this is basically the culmination. So everyone was able to do both and play with HTML, even though they didn't have any previous experience. So here's the 7th shelf, and those are emphasis tools. So instead of using that singular bullet, you can use these different types of codes to add emphasis to your content. Okay, so let me go ahead and share this with you. So I'll select home, and here we go. Oops, sorry, let's go home. Here we go. Cut. And this is for the course design toolbox. There we go. All right. So again, if you want to add emphasis, feel free to use that course design toolbox. All right. So what if we have a grouped item list? And this is the same for Canvas or for Microsoft Word as well. To create that group list, super easy. So you just highlight that group of items, and then you select bullet list if there is no particular order, or if there is a specific order, a process, then you would use the numbered list. So what I noticed, sometimes we'll use bullet lists even though we really mean the numbered list. So give your students additional information, your visual students as well. It'll help them provide a little bit more guidance how you want them to work with your content. So if use numbers for sequence, orders, processes, bullets if there isn't an order. Okay, so that's bullet and list, super easy. Okay, let me go ahead, press OK. All right. And let's jump back a little bit. Now let's talk about headings, okay? Headings. So headings provides some structure to your page, and for your students who are visual, they can easily see the difference or the different sections. So I know that this image is kind of small, but I want you to focus on how your students at a glance can see the different sections without headings versus with headings. So without headings, you can tell right off that it's just sort of a lot of text, and it's a little bit overwhelming, okay? And I know most of us, we already used headings, or we do have headings, but we don't use the heading styles in Canvas. So typically if you have like bold, sometimes you'll use bold, you can use heading styles, which automatically creates this default size. So we have that heading here. Okay, this is a header 2. Here's another heading. Notice how it just kind of pops in the page. And I use some emphasis color block as well to section off the different parts of the page. So headings, you can think of them sort of like outlines of the page. So students begin to understand what are those main topics. So header 2s are usually your main topics and how they relate to their header 3s and 4s visually. So for your students who are visual, they'll start to make those connections when you use heading styles. Because of the sizes, it'll change. So I'll go ahead and clear that, and we'll scroll down. So in Canvas, there are different heading styles, and they have different sizes. For example, let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit more and pull out my handy dandy item here. So we have actually 4 different types of styles. So first is paragraph. Okay, so when you type in the WYSIWYG, aka the what you see is what you get, you know, that little text box, that's the WYSIWYG. It's automatically defaulted to a paragraph. Then you have an option to use a header 2, header 3, and header 4. So where is our heading 1? Just guess, where is our heading 1? How come we don't have an option for header 1? So we only have options header 2, header 3, and header 4. Where do you think in Canvas is header 1? Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay. Here it is. Okay. Let me pull out my annotation tool. All right. So our heading 1 is actually the title of the page. So the title of this Canvas page is Important Food of the World. So again, as I mentioned, header 2s are, think of them as main topics, independent main topics, okay? So we have here chocolate, okay, chocolate, we can see that, that's an important food. And then what's another important food? Visually, you can tell chocolate and bread are larger texts, right? So those are independent main topics. So a little bit of how to correctly format heading styles. Remember, the title of a Canvas page is always heading 1, and then the next header is header 2. So second rule to writing headings, we need to have our headings in order. We cannot skip any headings. So when you start typing in Canvas, the first heading that it should be is header 2. Why would it be bad to skip headings and start at, like, say, header 3 because I like the size and look? What if I started at header 3 for chocolate? Why is that a bad idea for your students? Why is that a bad idea to skip headings and start at heading level 3? So if you remember, screen readers will pull up a list of headings should the student desire, and it's going to read aloud all of the headings on the page in order. So it's first going to read header 1, which is important foods of the world, and then it's going to read chocolates. Okay, then it's going to read bread. Okay, like it just goes down the line. So we've skipped a heading, heading style there. So that means your student who requires a screen reader, they're going to say, wait a minute, we started at header 1 and now we skipped to header 3. Was that me? Did I accidentally skip that? Is that the tool? Is that JAWS fritzing? And so that causes a little bit confusion. So we want to just streamline this for our students and make sure that we label our headings accordingly. So we would have number 1 as the title, then start as number 2. So don't skip those headings, right? So under chocolate, you'll notice that there are 3 subtopics, right? So these are topics that are nested under this independent topic. So what heading level would that be? 3, right? So that'd be 3. So dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white chocolate. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 3, 3. So the second or the third rule to writing headings is that you could have multiple heading 2s, you could have multiple heading 3s. Okay, and here we have again bread. That's a brand new main independent topic. We have leaven bread. And then we have, and Canvas, my goodness, does not make it very obvious, but how to make leaven bread, that is actually a heading 4, and that's really unremarkable. I mean, I can barely tell that this is a header 4 on a Canvas page, but that is a heading 4. And then we have leaven, unleavened bread, so that would be heading level 3. Okay, so you'll see that, again, don't skip any headings, and then you could have multiple heading 3s and multiple heading 2s, multiple heading 4s. All right. All right. Rob, now you're going to go get chocolate? Yes. Kind of feels like that kind of day. All right. So how do we do this in Canvas? Super easy. So I'll go ahead and select edit. And I will show you, it's very easy. So when I place my cursor here in Canvas, in the rich content editor, and let me just go ahead and zoom in a little bit more. In the upper right-hand corner, there's going to be a drop-down menu that allows us to select whatever header style we want. So when I place my cursor here at student experience, I'm just going to choose 4, and you'll start to see, okay, I didn't need to highlight the whole entire text. I just needed to place my cursor at that line. And now I can apply whatever header level I need. Okay, so that's 2, 3, 4. Okay, so of course, since this is the first heading level, I'm going to use header level 2. Okay, any questions about that? Any questions about that? Super easy, yeah? All right. So let me go ahead and cancel, clear. All right, so we have headings, and now let's go into table accessibility. So table accessibility is super easy. There is a long version of how to apply, like manually apply the accessibility, but I highly recommend making your life easier and just use a check accessibility tool. So in Canvas, there's a native tool. It's called the check accessibility tool. So after you've applied all of your accessibility, you can easily just select this little figure on the bottom right-hand corner, okay? And then it's going to check the accessibility of your page. So it also does color contrast too, which is kind of neat. I like that. So if you ever wanted to customize any of the colors on your page, absolutely feel free to. Canvas can help you find a good color that has sufficient contrast, or AKA it's readable, right? So is the color of your text readable against the background? So Canvas can help you do that. You'll notice that the Canvas accessibility checker does have limitations. Like it's calling out that this is a color that is inaccessible. It doesn't have enough color contrast, but it's kind of a decorative item. So, it's not part of the content, which is kind of interesting. So I'm just going to go ahead and select next until I find my table. Do we have our table? Oh, we don't have a table here. Let's see if we can find a table. We press cancel. Oh, we just have screenshots of tables. Okay. So let's see if we can find some here. Let's see. I'll create one real quick. All right. So in Canvas, who uses tables in Canvas? Who uses tables in Canvas? So I have this course design toolbox as well that has tables, a striped table. So if anyone is using a lot of like just showcasing large sets of data set, you might want to consider using some of this code just because it kind of helps students visually read. Yeah, Rob, yeah, you've used them in quizzes. Yeah, so you might want to use them if you have a lot of content. But otherwise, let me go ahead and just let's create a table real quick. Okay, so I'm going to select table and let's just have two items here. Okay, and the first, let's just say it's pH and wow. Actually, no, let's not do that one. Let's do growth in inches. Let's do this. Let's make it super easy. And I'll just fill out parts of it. Okay. So we'll have this, and then we'll have sample. And let's create another row, and let's delete this column. Whoops. Whoops, whoops, whoops. All right, so let's just say sample A, sample B. Okay, so we have a table here, and we'll usually have a title for our table, right? So I'll just say growth of samples or something like that. All right, so I'm going to use the check accessibility tool. And let's go ahead and find our table. Okay, so the first thing it wants us to do is add a table caption. So the table caption is kind of like a summary, and it describes the contents of this table. Basically, what is this table about, right? So I'll go ahead and copy, cut, and I will paste the caption here and select apply. Okay, and now you'll notice that Canvas has automatically placed that title. So it kind of makes it look a little bit visually appealing, right? Okay, next it wants us to set table headers. Table headers are very important for our students, especially if they're low vision or blind, because it helps them navigate the table in the way that we intended, right? So a table header is basically telling us to define which are the column or the row description. So sample and growth inches, those are our table headers. So it's actually going to be a header row, okay? And I'll select apply. And I'm just going to close this out. So it shows us here, okay, our new tables. So Canvas has automatically bold and center justified the headers, the table headers. So students who are visual, now they can see, at a glance, these are the headers. This is the column descriptions, okay? Any questions about table accessibility? So yeah, I just highly recommend just use the check accessibility tool. Be mindful, it does have some limitations, but it definitely makes your life a lot easier. Okay, so we just covered list. Okay, so that's links, images, structure, and table. I have a quick question for folks here today. Do we use any decorative images, or do you have any profile pictures or pictures of people in your course? What kind of images do we use in our courses? Because there's different use cases, right? So You might have an image that's decorative. So in this example here, we have a Canvas page that has a decorative banner. So in Canvas and also in Microsoft Word and also in PDF, you can mark images as decorative if the image is just there for aesthetic reasons. So that basically makes the image disappear for your students who rely on assistive technologies. How about this? Let's do a quick self-check on images while we're here. So this is an image that I'm going to be using in my class that I'm co-teaching with Jason Momoa, and we're kind of in a hurry. So we're just going to use these profile pictures to make our online class a little bit more friendly. We're going to just post that on the front page. So the alt text is image of Liesl and Jason. The alt text is image of Liesl and Jason. So going back, how will a screen reader read aloud our profile picture if the alt text is image of Liesl and Jason? Is it going to read A, image of Liesl, Jason, or B, image of Liesl and Jason? Is it A or B? Yep. Professor C, you are correct. It is A. It's image of Liesl and Jason. So in your alt text, you do not have to write image of, picture of. All we need to do is just provide the description. Absolutely. And we also want to avoid adding in, say, for example, the file formats like .jpeg, okay? Say, for example, if this is our profile picture, if you happen to be Elvis teaching a class, you can write Elvis playing a guitar on stage, okay? You would remove the file format like, you know, the .jpeg. So you get rid of that. Students don't need access to that, or the PNG. Okay, students don't need to know that. Okay. All right, so that was images. Okay, but we've just learned how to do lists. So now it's 3:32. We kind of breezed through a lot of the content. Does anyone have any questions on that? Feel free to unmute your mic. Any examples? So this is a work lab. Let me know if there are any inaccessible or obstacles that might be in your course that you have questions about. How about we talk about video? So this is kind of important because many of us are using Zoom nowadays to access and just, sorry, to hold our lectures, right? So whether we're just recording and using Zoom, or if we are holding live lectures, how do we make that accessible for our students? So we're going to talk about different things today. So we did list, that's our acronym, and then the next leg of it is called CAT. So that's the a little bit more advanced part of accessibility. But CAT is an acronym that means captions, audio description, and transcript. So these are the three elements that is very helpful for your students. So just providing them different ways of accessing your content, okay? So let's jump in, okay? So when you create any videos in your course, I highly recommend, there's a couple of grants that you have available to you. So one of them is called 3C Media Solutions, 3C Media Solutions. And it's a free service for all CCC, California Community Colleges, paid for by the Chancellor's Office. So you can send your video out, you just create an account, you send your video off to 3C Media Solutions, and they will caption your video and share the video back to you. So just a little bit of background, it takes, like I've been doing my own captions for some while. So it takes me about an hour to caption a video that's like 5 minutes sometimes. Just because, you know, we need to make sure that we're that the captions are accurate. Okay, so 3C Media Solutions is a very good solution to use. Right now, I think the turnaround time is about 2 weeks, so try to plan ahead when possible. Okay, so what is the difference between captioning and subtitling? I know we see this sometimes. They're used unfortunately interchangeably. So subtitles are typically language translations, direct language translations, for example, from Chinese to English. Okay, the difference between captions and subtitles is that captions also catch the sounds, the relevant sounds in your videos. So that is the difference between captions and subtitles. So in order to create, and this might be helpful, okay? If you're in a hurry and you just want to caption your videos very quickly, what you can do, if you can use YouTube, and you could create a transcript. So I highly recommend when you're creating videos that will be watched later on to create sort of a transcript or a script that you will be reading from, and that kind of helps you sort of narrow down what you want to say, create more of a concise video for your students. There's a lot of research that shows students their attention span are about like 5 to 7 minutes. I've been working with a couple of community colleges who have been using Studio, and they're seeing their students drop off at the 2-minute mark. So we're still trying to figure out what's going on there, but as much as possible, go ahead and try to bring your video down. So if it's a 1-hour video, you can cut it in half, 30 minutes, and I think that should be fine. Yeah. And that helps your students navigate the different topics as well, so they can take a break in between and come back. Okay, so you can write transcripts. Transcripts are very helpful for audio podcasts. So if you do podcasts in your course, it's good to provide that transcript for your students so they can follow along just in case. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so if you want to caption videos that you own, you could use 3C Media Solutions. Okay, I highly recommend that we use 3C Media Solutions. Here is the information if you don't have this. Okay, I'll just say 3C Media Solutions. All right, just how to get started. You can also caption in Zoom. So Zoom automatically creates an audio transcription and a transcript for you. And that transcript, just to back up a little bit, that transcript can be used to generate the caption. So say, for example, when you read off that transcript, right, and for some reason, if you're like, hey, you know what, I want to caption it myself, you would use that transcript, place it into YouTube, and then YouTube will do its magic and it'll automatically create closed captioning for you. Yeah, which is super cool. You might need to tweak it a little bit, but it does a lot of the legwork for you. So having that transcript is really good. In Zoom, it creates auto-generated captioning, which is good. It's a good start. But it will still need to add periods, punctuation, correct grammar. It doesn't catch everything. Okay. And for videos that you don't own, okay, how to caption videos that someone else owns, there's a couple of ways we can do this. So I know sometimes we will curate resources, right, from other authors. So you can use, I believe in your Canvas instance, you have Alexander Jump Street, and feel free, Dave, if you want to jump in. there's at least 2 streaming library services that you have in your instance. So if you have an inaccessible video, you can try looking. Oh, and Dave, I see you're unmuted. What are the 2 streaming services? I'm pretty sure there's 2, right?
Are you referring to the Canvas Studio?
You're
referring to video, streaming video.
Video in the rich content editor.
Yeah. Actually,
yeah.
our libraries subscribe to several.
Okay.
Films on demand, things like this. I don't have an exhaustive list right at my fingertips, but there are 2 or 3 at least that are available through libraries at the different colleges. You're right.
So just to back up a little bit, okay, in the rich content editor, if you select more external tools, it's this little blue V, okay, you will have, you should have access to all of the library streaming services. And I did see a couple. Yes, Dave, I did see that. Yeah, Films on Demand, definitely, that's a popular one. Yeah, so you can use the more external tools to search for a video, an accessible version of your video. So you can have the inaccessible video, but if you can find a video, another video that has captions of equivalent content, you can give your students multiple options, what video they want to watch. So choose your own adventures are usually very fun. Okay, so again, that's in the more external tools. If you have a video that you've curated, try to find one that has closed captioning with accurate punctuation, and make sure that what is being spoken is captured through the captions simultaneously. Okay, all right. All right, so that is closed captioning. Here's one other item. Oh, here's audio files. We'll create that transcript tool. And if anyone is curious, I'll show you. This is a transcript. It's just a very basic script, and it's just what you're reading, right? So when I create my videos, I'll create a transcript so that I can use these to generate my closed captioning in YouTube. All right, let me talk about audio description. So it's about 3:43 right now. This is really important, especially if you are lecturing, especially if you use a lot of visuals in your course, okay? Let me go ahead and preview okay, I'm sharing my computer sound, perfect. What is audio description?
The importance of audio description. North Idaho College IT Committee. Without seeing the video, can you tell what movie this audio belongs to? Who's this?
Ooh, hello.
Who's he saying hello to? Why is he smelling the other person? Is that a horse or a dog? What's going on now? Let's listen again, but with audio descriptions on the video.
From the creators of Tangled and Wreck-It Ralph, Disney. A carrot-nosed coal-eyed snowman shuffles up to a purple flower peeping out of deep snow.
Ooh, hello.
He takes a deep sniff. His nose lands on a frozen pond. A reindeer looks up and pants like a dog. Seeing the reindeer slip on the ice, the snowman smiles and moves towards him, though actually he's running on the...
Okay, so that's a little introduction of audio description, okay? And you could think of audio description, well, here I go. Ta-da! You can think of audio description like listening to a podcast. So what I'm hearing from working with different faculty among the community college is that our students, when they watch your lecture for the first time, they are watching your lecture. But when they come back to review your content, they will listen to your content instead. So when we are authoring our videos, right, when we're doing our narration, are we explaining what is on the screen in such a way that if I, as a student, just needed to listen to it, can I gather the same information? Okay. So they kind of like to listen to your videos, kind of like listening to a podcast. Maybe they might want to do some chores around the house, maybe go for a jog, whatever. Students like to multitask. Okay. So this is an example, okay, of, let's do an example, what I mean. And the audio description for that video, Frozen, it's a good example, but it doesn't really, it's pretty much trying to apply, it's retrofitting accessibility after the fact, basically. And it's a little bit awkward. It's a lot better if you incorporate the audio description into the script or the transcript so that it's a little bit more natural and there's no post-production needed, right? You don't need to create another track in order to provide that content. So let's pretend, and this is what I'm seeing, we'll have PowerPoint presentation. So let's pretend that I have this content here, and that's on a PowerPoint, okay? Very visual, right? So let's pretend that I'm co-teaching with Jason Momoa, and we are teaching marine aquarium biology, and we're just going to talk about this sea anemone, okay? So I'm going to weave in that audio description for you so that you can kind of get a feel for how would you approach this in your course. So the first thing you want to focus on before I begin, focus on the global picture. So what are we looking at? What's the lay of the land, okay? If it helps for you to say in the upper right-hand corner, we see da-da-da-da-da, okay? Maybe you might have noticed while I was doing the presentation, I might actually say in the upper right-hand corner or the bottom left-hand corner. So I'm providing some orientation. What are we looking at as a whole? And then we start focusing on the details, okay? So here we go. Let me give you a demo. Okay. Hi, students. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to talk about the anatomy of the sea anemone. And I just want you to know that not all sea anemones have mobility, but let's go ahead and talk about the different parts of the sea anemone. So first we have the tentacles that line their circular mouth, which is connected to their column body. It's the cylindrical body that is used for movement. Okay, so if you were to stop and then replay that, you could follow along and kind of visualize the orientation. Where are the tentacles? Well, it's around the round mouth, which is connected to the column body, okay? So it's providing our students sort of a textual or an audio description of what we see. Okay, so if that's helpful for your course or for your images to kind of break down what do we see first before you go into detail, go ahead and do that for your students so you can help them if you know they're coming back to your video and they're rewatching. Any questions about audio description? That is audio description. Now, yeah, it's pretty close, pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so we just learned about CAT, which is captions, audio description, and transcript. So it's 3:49 right now, and we're talking a little bit about the end tail of videos. So in your Zoom videos, if you're showcasing any PowerPoint slides, make sure to weave in that audio description so that your students can follow along in the recording. Okay. All right, any other questions? So it's 3:50. Let's do an open mic. So we kind of did a lot. We covered a lot of content. Are there any inaccessibility issues in your course? And Rob, happy hour is in 11 minutes. Yes, yes. That's right. Any questions? No. Rob, yes.
No, I was just going to say it's a bit overwhelming to, I'm sure if you went through mine, you'd just be, oh my God, that it's just a function of having the time to do all that kind of work. It's a lot.
It is. It is absolutely. And I think what I should have started off with, because at this point, yes, we're usually like, oh my goodness, that is a lot of work. Like this front page that I designed here, it looks simple, but it took a lot of time. Right. Very funny. It's like the simpler the design, the more the longer it takes, right? But that's kind of like accessibility for you. So you're learning a brand new way of formatting the content. It's almost like remember the first time you started driving, like the very first time you were behind the wheel and you started driving. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, right? So there's a lot of things that you're trying to focus on and make sure you don't crash or go down the hill, right? So Rome wasn't built in a day, so you might not be able to do everything at once. I think if I were to prioritize, just to start off with, I would first apply heading styles. That's what our students need. They need the all of it. But if I were to prioritize, try adding some headings to your content pages, to your documents. Okay. The next, then I would focus on images as well. Okay. And then start thinking about a strategy. What do you want to do with those handouts? So I know, you could create accessible Microsoft Word documents or PDFs, but where do you want to go from there? And you might want to reach out to your professional development team to have those discussions and have that support. Don't forget, with video accessibility, we do have resources. So 3C Media Solutions provides free captioning support, so that should help as well. But in terms of accessibility, there's only so much we can do. But I think if we can just apply headings, add the alt text to images, make sure you're using the rich content editor to apply lists. And focus on table accessibility. In time, your class will be accessible. Yeah, it just takes time. Absolutely. Any other questions or comments? Just take it one day at a time. Yeah. All right, well then, if there aren't any questions, feel free to walk about the cabin. Thank you very much for joining me. Again, my name is Liesl, and I am your instructional designer for a moment. I believe I have some other flex days as well, so go ahead and check out the calendar. Dave, do you have access to that calendar? Let's see.
Yeah, I believe I have that here. Just a second.
Yeah, so I have basic Canvas accessibility, which is, I know that I have some folks that will come back to our session. So you could come to that one if you need another refresher. It takes some time. You learn something new every day. I know at one point, so I've been practicing accessibility, I think for about like 5 or 6 years now. And I've heard some people call me a Jedi in accessibility, but I don't really feel like one because I'm always learning something brand new about accessibility. So it just takes time. Yep. And so Dave will go ahead and put in the chat.
I'm looking for that.
Oh yeah.
I thought I had it at my fingertips. Let's see. looking for her most recent one here.
So in the chat, I'm
I'll
just
tell you
going
what,
to go ahead.
I'll just go ahead and put the PD, the professional development calendar link in. That
Yep.
should have everything in it. That'd be the quickest thing to do.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So there's that. So there's the public Canvas accessibility course, and then we have other courses for free that you can take self-paced as well that we've developed. So let me go ahead and find those free resources for you. And let's see. Self-paced Canvas. Okay, and here is the link for the self-paced self-paced accessibility courses. All right. So again, you know, it's I know it's a little bit overwhelming, but just to start off with, I would add headings, and then maybe if you're creating videos or holding recorded lecture videos, start weaving in some audio description. So what do we physically see on the screen? So just focus on those two, and then the rest will follow in time. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. You are free to walk about the cabin, and I will talk to you later. See you next time. Thank you all.